I have to be really honest with you guys for a moment. I'm a little pissed off at Jeff today. He's not going to hear this. But, sorry, Jeff, just close your earmuffs, please. I'm watching the new Roadhouse movie. Anyone watch the new Roadhouse movie? Remake of Patrick Swayze, Beautiful Man movie? Nothing? Thank you. We have one person. I can give you the plot. Good guy, bad guy. That's all you need to know. It's not, they're going to fight each other. In the end, the good guy's going to win, the bad guy's going to lose, right? All the movies I watch are based on this. Spoiler alert. Every movie I've ever watched, that's the plot. Now, as I'm watching this, enjoying my wonderful movie, in the back of my head, I'm hearing Jeff's voice. And it's saying, victory does not create peace. And I'm watching a movie where the good guy's going to kick the bad guy's ass, and it's going to create peace. And Jeff's voice is saying it's not going to create peace. And I'm like, you're totally wrecking my movie right now. And this sucks. Because it's true. As I'm watching this movie and I'm going, okay, really, what's going to happen here? The good guy's going to kick the bad guy's butt. And then the bad guy's going to retaliate. And then the good guy's going to, it's just going to keep going back and forth and getting worse and worse. Roadhouse 3 and 4 and 5 and every action movie ever invented. But now I have Jeff's voice in my head that says, well, this is Disneyland. Victory almost never creates peace. It just creates zealots. People who will wait till you're not looking and they'll stab you in the back. Great. We have how many conflicts going on? Israel, Gaza. If there's no victory going to create peace, like that was the one thing I was hoping for. If one of them wins, at least we're going to have peace. But if that's not the case, I'm frankly a little bummed. I'm even looking at my wife. We're having a conversation. I'm like, oh, wait. Even if I win this, what's going to happen? So where does that leave us? Other than being angry at Jeff all the time. But only because what he said was true, wasn't it? How is it going to work? If Israel does what they think they're going to do, what's going to happen in the next generation? So now I'm sitting on my chair watching my Roadhouse movie that's totally wrecked and going like I'm hopeless. And then I thought of a story from our spiritual ancestors. There's a guy named Paul. He writes to someone named Philemon, and he essentially says, hey, Philemon, I want a favor from you. We only get Paul's writing. We don't get Philemon responding. So all we hear is Paul. And Paul says, I have this favor. Implied is you don't want to give it to me. I'm like, okay, well, that's the beginning of a conflict. I get it. And then Paul says this. He says, I could make you do this. We don't know why, but it seems like there's some hierarchy that he can use to force Philemon to do what he wants. So we're in this place, right? I have power. I'm going to make you do what I want you to do. So I'm going to have victory, and then after that, everything's going to be good. That's the assumption. That's the Disneyland in our heads. But then Paul says something that kind of blows my mind. He says, but I'm not going to do that. Okay, that perked me up a little bit. He says, Philemon, you know the last time I did something for you, and you said, I owe you? I could also call in the favor, but I won't do that either. He says, I want you to want to do this. And then he says, what do you need from me in order to do me this favor? That's pretty different than victory creates peace. And for a moment, I could feel this kind of like maybe hopefulness. Could that be a model to great peace? Now, you guys know me. I like thoughts in my head a lot. So I had this thought in my head, and I was like, oh, this is good. We've solved all the problems of the world. We literally figured out how to create peace. Wicked. So I'm out running with my running partner the next day, and he says, yeah, so what do you do with Putin? I'm like, oh, crap. Paul says, if there's this metaphor, and JFK, he has this metaphor, he says, tide lifts up all boats in the harbor. You ever heard that quote? It's this idea that says when we interact with people, we want all the boats to be lifted up. Paul's here, he's saying, I want you to lift up my boat, Philemon. And instead of saying, I don't care what your boat's doing, Paul says, I want to lift your boat up too. What does the world look like when we think through that framing? In Vince's perfect world, it solves all our problems. But then what happens when this boat is torpedoing this boat? What happens when you have a tyrant who's saying, I don't care about your boat. I'm going to destroy your boat. And so suddenly my whole peace plan, I had it all figured out, you guys. I had your lives dealt with, all your problems done with. And then I was like, okay, I'm back to square one. So we kept running. There's another story that Jesus says. It's originally called the parable of the talents. It goes like this. Some boss person comes into the room and says, hey, I'm going on a trip. I'm going to give you half the company. I'm giving you 40%, and I'm going to give you 10%. And then they take off. And when they come back, the boss says, okay, so what happened? I gave you 50%. What'd you do with it? You're like, I doubled it. Sweet. And you, I gave you 40%. What'd you do with it? I doubled it. Nailed it. He's like, I'm not sure what I did with it. But I was reading this through the lens of Amy Jill Levine, who's a Jewish scholar who studies New Testament. One of the things she says is, when a rabbi tells a story, if you have an easy answer, it's probably not the story. Parables were told to get to the depths and complexities of our lives. Sorry, somebody just put their coffee cup on their pregnant belly, and I just lost my train of thought because I was laughing so hard. Thanks, Carly. Now I'm completely like, where was I? Oh, my ADD kicks in at the worst times, doesn't it? Okay, parable of the talents. The straight-up parable is never the right answer. In growing up, when I grew up with it, the character of the boss was considered a super being conception of God. If you have an old man in the sky conception, that was God, and God now gave you part of your life, and you part of your life, and you part of your life. And the story says God is like mean. If you conceive of it this way, the boss is mean. Takes what isn't his. And so when you conceive of it this way, suddenly this story is about, well, God gave us these talents, and am I doing everything with my talents, and oh crap, God's going to be mad at me, right? That's the way it's framed. And Amy Jill says, no, that's the simple reading. Go deeper. So I sat back and I thought, what if the boss isn't God? The boss is kind of a horrible person. Says the boss will take what's not theirs because they want it. And the boss says, yeah, that's exactly what I do. What if the boss is the tyrants in our lives? Suddenly this story becomes, I am interacting with the tyrant, and you lift the tyrant's boat, and the tyrant says, I like you. Did you lift my boat? Yes, you did. I like you. Now we all are the person who got the smallest amount, and we're walking into a room with a tyrant who doesn't care about our boat. We know this. And we walk in kind of going like this, like, oh, this is not going to go well. Why? Because fundamentally, as part of the story, the tyrant doesn't care about us. What did you do for me? And we say, the market's been bad. I did everything I could. I don't know what happened. Here's your money back. The tyrant's not interested in us. The tyrant doesn't care about your mental health. The tyrant doesn't care about external factors. All the tyrant cares about is what's in it for me. And if you can't lift my boat, the line says, throw them into the lake of fire. New moral of the story? Old moral of the story is, if you don't double what you're given, you're a bad person and God's going to be angry at you. New moral of the story is, don't play with tyrants. What if we took our lives and we went like this? Okay, let's look at our lives in terms of raising all boats. But let's take the tyrants and just kind of put them over here. We're just going to kind of separate ourselves, get a different job. You know, find a way to distance yourself from that family member who's like, if you don't do what I want you to do, could we then see Paul's framing of win-win as something that could actually create peace? I was back hopeful again. Well, yeah, we'll just take the Putins out of this conversation. There's actually a term in strategy called people who have unlimited desires. In strategy, if you have an opponent who has unlimited desires, you can't negotiate with them, you can't do anything, you just have to separate yourself. I thought, that's interesting, okay. What if we said we're going to put the tyrants over there and we're going to deal win-win, lift all ships with the people who aren't tyrants? How do you figure out who's a tyrant and who's not? Every time I thought I had this whole thing solved, I'd talk to someone and they'd ask me these questions. I'm like, oh man. How do you know that the person's a tyrant? I was working with my counselor one time. She said, before you write anyone off, give them a year. Okay, well that's helpful. But how do we know if they're tyrants? How do we know if they only care about lifting their boat and they couldn't give any care to our boat? I'm going to invite you guys. We don't normally do this, but Friends Church has changed a lot, right? Post-COVID, the in-person became smaller. The virtual community is now 22,000 people and strong. So there's a ton of people who are listening to my voice like 3 years from now in their car driving to Botswana. I don't know. But since I have y'all here, I want to invite you to do kind of like a small group part of this discussion. I want us to explore the question, how do you know someone's a tyrant? How do you know someone only cares about their boat getting lifted up and they don't care about yours? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get Yanni to throw up a line on the screen, and we're going to go through it together. What if somebody says to you this? Yanni, can you throw up that first? I hope I had it in my notes properly. So what if someone said to you this? I'd love for you guys to come for dinner on Friday. Who thinks that's a tyrant? You can put up your thumbs. You're all like, how about medium? You're not sure. You're like on the fence. Anyone hell no tyrant? I'm actually here on this one, and I'll tell you why. I'd love for you guys to come. There's a sense of, this is a question, there's not a demand, right? If it was a tyrant, it would be like, you're coming for dinner on Friday. Anyone get invites to family gatherings that are like that? You're coming to dinner on Friday, and you're like, ah. I think the I portion is okay, and the love makes it a bit softer for me. But if I already know that person's a tyrant, then this goes to tyrant in my head. Did I change any of your answers? You're all still like this. We're still medium. Context dependent. Okay, let's throw up the next one, Yanni. You never do what I want. Ooh, we got a whole lot more tyrants in this room. Okay, but remember, when we're engaging with other people, if you're dysregulated, if you flipped your lid, anyone seen this? They teach this with kids now. It's like the part of your brain that has adult thoughts goes on a holiday. And the part of you that's like a 2-year-old tantrum kid runs the show. What if this is that? Someone who's flipped their lid and they're just exasperated. It's been unfair for so long. It's been your boat, your boat, your boat. And now they're like, you never do what I want. Tyrant? Or did I soften it a little bit? Ooh, I got a few that put their thumbs back up to maybe. Any in the back row there? Still, ooh, softened you a little bit. Nice. Some of that depends on the tone of voice too, doesn't it? And whether or not they have a gun to my head. Can you throw the next one up, Yaidi? Get this done now. Anyone trying to argue this? Is there any thought to anyone else's boat in this sentence? They could be dysregulated, which gives us a little bit of softness, but I'm telling you, if someone tried that on me, I probably would react poorly. Oh, yeah. Here's something interesting about this whole conversation. Parenting is a tricky part of this, isn't it? Because in some sense, when kids are little, you kind of get to be the boss of most things. Now, if you do that too much, your kid will turn into a zealot and they'll get you back. It's called 13, and it's going to be a bitch. So be warned. You have power, but don't abuse it. The art of parenting is to know when to back that off and let them have their voice. Even if they want a haircut that you're like, you will totally regret that. And you're like, okay. Or they're like, I want to spend my money here. And you're going, that is the dumbest, okay, whatever, you know. But then there's a time when you're like, okay, you might lose a limb. I'm going to step in as the parent. So parenting is a weird part of our lives where raising all boats is much more tricky. And you guys have to, you who are parents, are constantly trying to figure out, when do I push and when do I let off? I don't envy you that. But I will say, if you're a tyrant too long, those kids can figure out a way to get back at you. So be warned. So, let's take it outside of parenting. Get this done now. Tyrant? It's definitely feeling a little tyrannical to me. Do I have one more, Yanni? I don't care what you want. Okay, this one feels like a flipped lid conversation, doesn't it? Like a couple who's been together and, it's gone really bad and they're like, I don't care what you want. At least maybe I'm trying to make it into that, so I give this, it's tyrant, okay, whatever. In the definition of it is, I don't care about your boat. I don't care what raises your boat. I don't care about anything about you. I just want what I want. Isn't that the definition I'm using for tyrant? You notice how it's not super easy? Is that the last one I have, Yanni? I got 3 more? I'm going to blame the coffee cup on the pregnant belly for all distractions today. Okay, throw it up. Oh, this is a good one. The rug must be vacuumed every week. Tyrant, medium, not tyrant. Is there any conversation about whether the rug needs to be? Oh, yeah, okay. I like that. Okay, let's frame differently. So, job description, this is like, today, to get this wage, you will have to vacuum the rug every week. Tyrant, Then I'm switching my answer. I like it. What about two people, so roommates, and the one says to the other one, the rug must be vacuumed every week. Tyrant? What was it? Are we assuming that vacuuming is a positive? Because I'm going to question that part. If you said, how often should we vacuum the rug for health? Then I'm all into this, because now it's like two boats playing and going, okay, what's going on? The boat needs to, so you're a vacuum every week kind of person? So this just feels like truth to you. Bam, I want truth. There's a true statement right there, therefore, anyone not vacuum every week kind of person? Does that feel a little tyrannical then? Like, let's have a conversation about this, shall we? Oh, nice. What happens if it's, hey, we made this agreement that we'd vacuum the rug every week, and you didn't, and we said the rug needs to be vacuumed every week? Then the agreement's already been made, right? So I'm assuming that there's no agreement, it's not part of your work thing, it's someone who's demanding something that I don't want to do because I don't believe in that. Then I can go like, see how interesting it is? Depending on how you frame this. So now you're going, okay, great, we can do this whole like lift everyone's boat thing. That's fantastic. As long as I can define who's a tyrant. But defining a tyrant's really tricky. Who are they? Are they dysregulated? Is this an agreement we have? Is this something that's for work? How do we do this? I don't want to vacuum every week. I want to vacuum every month or every 3 months. Don't laugh. That's an option. Y'all, that's not an option. Tyrant! Isn't it funny though, even that? When we think we have truth, it doesn't feel tyrannical. It just feels like truth. Suddenly this whole thing gets really tricky, doesn't it? Okay, did I have more? I have 2 more. We're going to do 1 more. We did your thing last time, now we're doing mine. I'm going to quote you and say, what if that's an agreement? Let's frame it in that. Hey, we're going to do this my time, and the next time we'll do it your way. Tyrant? No tyrant, not tyrant. Still, I've got some thumbs kind of sideways. I got a thumb down on this one. I feel pretty good about this one. Anyone have a, open to talking about that one? Yeah. Oh, I love that. I'm going to try and repeat it. What happens, she asked the framing, what happens if this, we did your thing last time was, I said yes to it, but I shouldn't have said yes to this? And now I'm resentful, and I'm pissed at you, and now it's coming from this place of, you owe me, you sack of crap. Right? Suddenly that feels a bit more like, okay, she talked to me. I went from here to like, I'm like here now. In that framing, I would put it here. How we frame these things changes everything. So, I have the perfect solution. Paul's idea, we raise all boats, all the pieces figured out. My running partner and his stupid Putin story, whatever. We're like, okay, we'll throw Putin out, but figuring out who's Putin is tricky. If I was mean to my partner time and time again, and you heard her quote, if it was constantly my way and we asked her, hey, how you feeling about Vince? Chances are it's going to sound a little tyrannical. I think it helps us to go, okay, we're going to put the tyrants over there, but we're going to keep this whole black and white framing of the tyrant a little soft. Is that a fair way of doing it? So there's some tyrants who are just like, look, don't care about you. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff between that and people we want to be in win-win with. Okay, Paul says, lift all boats. What if that boat hurt me? What if that boat did something mean that didn't care about my boat? What do I do then? You want me to lift their boat? There's this line from our Jewish tradition that says, an eye for an eye. We always take it as an eye for an eye, like you take my eye, I take your eye. But the rabbis, when they looked at this, said, no, it's not a permissive statement. It's a limiting statement. If someone hurts you, you only get to take an eye for an eye. If I'm honest, if someone crosses me, I will cut you out of my life. Eye for an eye? Oh, hell no. Eye for a scorched earth. What do we do with the people that have hurt us? If they do it time and time and time again, can we be comfortable say we're pushing them towards the tyrant side of things and we kind of push them out of our lives like the parable? We basically change jobs or quit? But what about one human who's having a bad day who hurts another human? What if it's one boss who never figured out how to honor another human being, is so worried about their own fiefdom that they respond unskillfully? Do we cut them out? They're a tyrant? Or is there an eye for an eye that says, hey, I will not escalate this? When I got to this part of the message, I was thinking about the songs that Alessandra wrote. She's actually just recording this one, I think, which is great because we get to listen to it whenever we want. But today I want to frame this story very particularly. It's a song called Today. It's a song called Today, right? Coffee cup on the belly, I'm telling you. It's a song called Today. And as you look through it, I want you to look through the lens of somebody's hurt you. Somebody's done something that wounded you. And there's a side of you that's kind of going like, I just want to push you away. But there's this other side that says, an eye for an eye. Maybe I need to keep my heart open to them again. Not if they're tyrants. But not everybody who hurts us is a tyrant. Who in your life do you need to open your heart to today? Okay, so I'm going to have some apologies to make to some people I've cut out of my life in the last little while. Yanni, can you throw up the relational model for me? We've been playing with this model of how we look at our spirituality in our lives. It's this idea of we create awareness, no more flipping the lids, no more dysregulation. We start to go, wait. Who am I and who are they? And if you notice, the tyrant only pays attention to the I. There is no they. So therefore, they can't get to we. But there's another problem. Some of us were raised to say there's something wrong with I statements. Someone told me the other day, someone had asked them for something and they said, sorry, I can't. My mental health is just in the toilet right now. I'm sorry I'm being so selfish. I can't do it because my mental health is in the toilet. I'm sorry I'm being so selfish? There's this idea that says, we're only okay if they're okay. It's part of the anxious attachment system. I can only be okay if I make sure they're okay. So you'll see people pleasing other people. I need them to be okay, because then I can be okay. And so the focus is all on the them. The I is villainized. I can't have needs. Sometimes they won't even know what they need. In my world, I knew what I needed, but the spiritual system I grew up with said, your needs are not good needs. You should never ask for anything from the world around you. You should get that from a conception of God. Punchline, I am currently, I was divorced, so clearly that didn't work that well for me, did it? But there's something inside of me that when I say I need, it's like, that doesn't feel quite right. I would have you put up your hand, but that would be very I-ish. How do you bring the I into the room? If this thing is both ships getting raised up, what happens when you're taught to only raise someone else's ship? And only if their ship is high can you actually raise it up. I have one friend, she gave me shit the other day, because I asked her for something that she didn't want to give me, that somehow I was supposed to magically know that she didn't want to give me, and then know not to ask her for that thing that she didn't want to give me that I didn't actually know about. Your faces are not quite confused? That's what I was thinking. I was like, sorry? What? In her world, not only did you raise someone else's ship, you never asked for anything that they didn't want to give you. So the only part of you that could be in the room is the part that they would want in the room. Now, some of you are going, this makes no sense. Others of you are going, that's uncomfortable. Because I was never taught to show up. My needs were always second or third. So let's play the same game we just did. It's a participation sport again today. I'm going to throw up some questions on the screen, and we're going to have a little discussion just between the few of us here. Don't worry, it's not being recorded to 22,000 people. So, Yanni, can you throw up the first question for me? I would like you to come for dinner. Healthy I, unhealthy I, somewhere in the middle. Healthy I is up here, unhealthy I is down here, middle. What do we got? Ooh, I got all over the place. I got some up, some sideways, a few downs. Anyone feel comfortable yelling at me why they think it's a down? Nope, that's a little too high. Apologies, that was my bad. When I read this, now, my religious tradition taught me that I was bad, but I'm not naturally like that. My wife would say my needs are loud and immediate. I want to eat now. So saying, I would like you to come for dinner, isn't that starting the conversation of, I would like this, what would you like? Healthy I? Got some heads moving a little bit like, maybe Vince, I don't know. Screw you. Did I move anyone's thinking? What if that was healthy? You could ask as long as you didn't demand. How does that feel? Can you throw the next one up for me, Annie? I would like you to do this project in a way that fits my schedule and skill set. Healthy I, medium, definitely unhealthy I. Oh, we got a couple. Really? Thumbs down. Anyone want to throw up why? Trevor? Too demanding. I would like.
You to do this. It's not you. Oh, I'm sorry. I misread.
Me and Dave are on the same page with this one. Oh, change it. Anyone change their answer now? I would like to do this project essentially in a way that fits for me. Oh. What if I said there's a skill set, comma, and then we said there could be an additional sentence? I would like to do it this way. Well, how would you like to do it? Ooh, still not? Too strong? The I is too strong?
Everybody in your group would want to do it in a way that fits their schedule and skill set.
Yeah.
Everybody can't have their own way, so there has to be some common discussion.
Okay, so let me say what she's saying. She's saying, if you have 5 people in the room, you're going to have 13 different ways of doing it that everyone will want to do, and it's just going to create a fight, right? Okay, so I have this magical thing in this world. It's called Kijiji. This thing blows my mind, and I'm not exaggerating. The other day, I drive to the end of the city. A guy brings out a pair of shoes. I try them on. I give him $50 for these shoes. I feel like I've robbed the guy. Like, start the car, quick, let's get out of here. And he's going like, you can see him on the way back. He's like, nice. And I'm like, how is it that we both walked away going, I made out like a bandit? Could it be that there's a way to frame things so 2 people can both come away from something saying, I would like this, and they're both going, That's wicked. Did I get your thumb moved at all? Oh, nice. Anyone else move their thumb a little bit? If there's a way, and again, this is what I actually have a note on my office door downstairs. Could it be that we could all trade things and all be better off by doing it? I could get a wicked pair of shoes. The guy whose shoes or feet they don't fit is like, I finally got some money out of those. And I'm going, I paid $50 for a $250 pair of shoes? Sweet. Okay, Yanni, throw up the next one for me. I don't like the way you're talking to me right now. Anyone? Thumbs down. Anyone want to talk about why they're feeling a little uncomfortable with that one? A little too strong on the eye? I like this one. To me, it feels good. Like, I don't like the way you're talking. Now, I can change my tone of voice. I don't like the way you're talking. Okay, that could feel a little bit off. But what about somebody saying, I don't like, one of the things I notice about myself is I tend to raise my voice and get angry a lot. I don't feel like I am. Like, for me to feel that I am angry, it has to be like, I am livid. But sometimes I walk in the door and I look at my wife and I can just see her shrink a little bit. And I'm like, what just happened? Now, when I first met her, I was like, well, that's weird. She's just doing weird things. Now I'm realizing her anger meter is a little more sensitive than my anger meter. Chances are I came in with my voice looking a little like this. I think we need to do this. And she's going, eh. And now as she pulls back, I go, okay, Vince, tone down your voice, relax a little bit. Hey, babe, how's your day? Hey, do you think we could do this? Tone of voice matters a lot in how we read that, doesn't it? If it starts with, hey, I don't really like the way you're talking to me right now. It's making me feel really uncomfortable. But if it's, I don't like, even this, you notice how the I, we're a room of what, 50 people? Not one of these sentences have you all agreed on. Veronica. Oh, we got a ninja level answer there. That's a good answer. Her answer, let me see if I'm paraphrasing you. She says, I don't really like the you. It feels a little blamey. So what I would probably do is say, I don't feel good with the way this conversation is going right now, as opposed to the blame. Am I hearing it correctly? Am I at least close? I like that. I should have put that one in the thing. Okay, I need to keep going, otherwise we're going to be here for an hour. But I love the way you guys are thinking. I want you guys to see the I is tricky. For some of you, raising the other boat is the easiest thing in the world. And your boat's like half underwater. And your work is to go, how do I get my boat up? How do I stop saying yes to the things I should say no to? How should I ask for what I want? Even though asking, as soon as I put an I in there, it feels like, oh, this is bad. How do I get in touch with me and my boat? And trust the other person's going to take care of their boat and say, hey, this is what I need to raise my boat. So we started this message telling Jeff that he wrecked all of our action movies for all times because the bad guy's kicking, or the good guy's kicking the bad guy's butt's not going to create peace. Then we get to Paul, who says, if we raise all ships, that's what leads to peace. Now we ran into some issues along the way. Tyrants, okay, push them out of the way. When I've been hurt and I want to close off and you see you as an enemy, eye for an eye. We open ourselves back up. Now we look at it through the lens of, wait a second, it's not when I'm saying lift up all ships, I don't mean lift up their ship. I mean lift up your ship and their ship. How does it feel now? Once we get rid of kind of some of the awkward pieces around the edges, does it feel like this idea of win-win works better? Could it actually lead to peace in the world? As I said before, I tend to be a bit abstract. I think of these thoughts, I'm like, oh, that's a good thought. But then my poor wife has to deal with all these thoughts. And so the other day we were having this conversation, and again, surprisingly, my message came into it. I'm not sure how that happened. I might be thinking about it all the time. And she has this, so a little backstory. She wants something from me. A couple years ago, she has this flower business. She wanted a new cooler. She was like, can you build me a cooler? I was like, yeah, I can build you a cooler. How big do you want it? So I built her the cooler that she wanted. I said at the time, I was like, a little small? She's like, no, it's all I need. Anyone guess the new conversation? I think I need it 3 times bigger. Now let's put this through the frame of what we just did here. Is she being a tyrant? I can't blow this off on that ground. Do I feel hurt? Not really. The question is, how do I raise my boat so that the building of the cooler will feel like a win-win for both of us? That's the magic, isn't it? There's a researcher named Alison Armstrong. She has this quote. Can you throw it for me, Annie? She says, this is how you frame every ask. You ask for what you want. Could you build my cooler 3 times bigger for me? And then you put this sentence at the end. Is there anything you need from me to want to do that for me? Whoa. At first I was like, on the scale of things I want to do in my life right now with the amount I have going on, building a new cooler is about number 4,068 or something like that. How am I supposed to get it to number 1 or 2? But then I started asking myself, how could I get it to 1 or 2? What could she do for me that would make me want to do that for her? How could we raise my boat? And at first, your first brain goes into tit for tat and scorecarding. No, Alessandra already sang that song at the beginning. It's not what we're doing. It's both people caring about both people's experience. And say, what would raise the boat? You know what I've come to? And y'all can't laugh because this is honest. I just want her to be thankful and appreciative of what I do for her. And if she could say that for a couple weeks after, and maybe every once in a while say, my cooler's awesome, thank you so much, I'd frickin' build her 14 coolers. Doesn't that sound like, what could someone ask you that you would come back and say, if you would do this for me, that would mean the world. I want the carpet vacuumed every week. Crazy town, I know, but is there anything you need from me to want to do that for me? To want. How do you raise the boat? What if we spent our time thinking about this in our lives? Instead of going, how do I get this from somebody? How do I get my employee to do this? How do I go, no. I'm going to clearly state what I want. But then I'm going to say, and what would you want? My wife said after this, she's like, you know what? That question allows me to ask for more. Because before I thought I'm just asking and asking. But if my wants are framed in this thing of what works for both of us, I don't feel so guilty. What would it look like in your world to put that question in play? What would you need from me? Or, for those of us who don't lift our boats well, what would feel good to me that I would actually want to do this for that person? Want it truly, deeply, open-heartedly, full connection to self, want it. I think that could lead to peace. I think that could lead to peace in my marriage, in the people I work with, my friends. and even some bigger pieces. Tyrants aside, I wonder if that's the peace. Now, chances are, if you're like me, you're looking at this going, I have maybe not done that very well in my past. I either didn't lift their ship, or my ship's at the bottom. I want to have a final song that says, you can start fresh now. There will be hurts from past where this didn't happen. There will be things that didn't go well that you're going to have to work through, but you can start again. Frame your world through win-win, raising all ships. As she sings the last song, I want to encourage you to do this. Just give yourself permission to start again. I maybe haven't done this to now, but going forward, I'm going to go this direction.